Monday, October 20th. Stephen, can you please take the roll?
Commissioner Booms,
Here.
Commissioner Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Kwan,
Here.
Commissioner Vandergallian,
Here.
Commissioner Corwin,
Here.
Commissioner Werner,
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell,
Here.
Commissioner Willem, Commissioner Ankita.
Thank you, Stephen. We do have a quorum. Is there a motion to approve our agenda for this evening? Motion made by Martin, seconded by Vandergallian. All those in favor?
That's fine.
Not discussing.
Discussion. Okay, yes.
I just want to clarify the intent of the added meeting. Is it to only complete the business agenda that was not addressed in the prior session, or is the request to complete an additional full?
It's my understanding that this meeting was called with a discussion from the city manager with city staff to get the this meeting to discuss the business agenda before us in addition to unfinished business on our agenda. So I don't know if that answers the question per se. But we will still have a November Monday meeting, the first one, if that answers your question.
So the reason I asked the question is if the intent,
Turn on your mic.
I'm sorry. The reason I asked the question is because if the intent is that we focus and deliver on the business agenda that was not completed last time, that's sort of one piece. If the intent is to have a complete full meeting, that would include the communications from the audience, written communications, the unfinished business agenda, the items from the commission, kind of all of those other things. I just want to make sure if the intent is we should cover the business agenda, I don't want to shortchange us. I want to make sure we get that done. If it's to have a full meeting, we can do all the other pieces too, but just to understand that instruction to us.
So the instructions that I have for commissioners is that this is just any other regular meeting. There will be public comment. We will have, announcements by board members, and this will be acting like a regular meeting, except we're having two in October instead of one. So the intention has always been, since we didn't get the business completed at our previous October meeting, we are doing this one today for a second meeting. So the motion still stands. Any other discussion on the agenda? So we already did a motion by Martin, seconded by Vandergallian. All those in favor of approving the agenda as is? All those against? Motion prevails. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our first October meeting? Motion made by Martin, seconded by Vandergallian. Not bad. Seconded by Harris. Thank you. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? All those in favor? All those against? Great. At this time, I don't believe we haven't gotten any new written communications that was submitted to us before our agenda packet came out. Any communications that were submitted prior to the agenda being sent to us will be included in the meeting minutes, and then they'll be included in written comments for our November meeting. For 3.0, communications from the audience, I do have two cards of individuals wanting to speak, Carissa and Molly. So Carissa, if you want to come up during public comments, I can give you 5 minutes. So. You want to turn your mic on? It's on, okay,
There
good.
we go.
Yep, thank
I
you.
understand these are volunteer positions, and I do appreciate you taking the time to serve on the commission. I was concerned by how cut-through traffic data from the row study in Southeast Marble was presented at the last meeting. The overall message was that cut-through traffic is down. However, this presentation did not highlight several important points. One, there continues to be a substantial amount of cut-through traffic in the neighborhood, with over a third of traffic on John R. northbound and 79% of traffic on Moreland southbound considered cut through. And two, there was no mention of vehicle speeds, which are a critical factor in determining how safe, vulnerable road users feel on neighborhood streets. Even a few speeding vehicles a week can significantly impact residents' sense of safety. Overall, the Rowe and Fishback reports seem to downplay neighborhood concerns about traffic volume and speed. I have observed that recent studies do not always reflect residents' on-the-ground experiences. For example, one, the Rowe study on cut-through traffic was conducted in May after students had left, when traffic conditions differ substantially from the school year. Two, speed data was omitted from both the Rowe and Fishback reports for Southeast Marble. And three, a recent speed study for the Harrison Road project measured traffic between Wildwood and South Lawn. This was in the agenda packet for the council tomorrow, before northbound cars can accelerate over the hill towards the North Lawn Harrison crosswalk, which, to my understanding, was the key area of concern. It should be noted that the recent Spicer Group study showed that 19.7% of drivers were going over 25 miles over the speed limit. Yet in a study from 2022 conducted at nearly the same spot showed that 70% of drivers were speeding. Traffic patterns and behavior have not changed that dramatically on this road over the last 3 years, and I am unclear as to why the two speed studies conducted at the same spot could produce such different results. That was in the packet for tomorrow's city council agenda. And four, the Fishback report on the South Lawn and Rosewood stop signs did not reference the Safe Routes to School plan, which recommended replacing the yield signs with stop signs. It appears that the approach to these studies has not effectively captured residents' lived experiences or addressed persistent concerns about traffic safety. Significant financial resources continue to be devoted to studies when some issues, such as converting a yield sign to a stop sign, could be addressed through relatively simple measures. These challenges seem rooted less in technical barriers, such as removing 2 bolts on a yield sign to replace it with a stop sign, which could be done with the same bolts, and more in differing perspectives on the role of cars in our transportation network and the level of priority that should be given to vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians and bicyclists. It is my hope that the commission will approve all of the stop sign requests that you have tonight. However, if the commission declines these requests, I hope that alternative methods for slowing traffic in the heart of our neighborhoods are explored and that resident concerns are carefully considered moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Molly, did you want to go up next? Yep.
Molly Spooner. Thank you. I know that it's a hard task that you'll have, and there have been a lot of emails and everything. Really quickly, I do want to push for us to really look at the South Lawn Rosewood intersection, which currently has 2 yield signs, and the Safe Routes to School plan had those being converted into stop signs with the addition of crosswalks. That's probably a main artery in our neighborhood to get to elementary school. And I just, we're trying, but I don't know that adding a stop sign at Rosewood there is the problem. Because what's really the problem, our car is going really fast down South Lawn, noting that I know we're not supposed to use stop signs for speed control, but stop signs do in fact stop traffic. So my request would be to really look at what was looked at by MDOT, school system, and the city, and actually follow through on all the work that was already done. We spent a lot of money on that, a lot of hours. Didn't happen. I think that would be a good question. Like, why do we have 85 pages of studies that then either the school system dropped the ball? Doesn't matter who did what, I guess, but we do need to follow through on those things. I also just have to wonder the criteria for stop signs. It just looks to me like it is for more of a major area, right? So if you look through the packets, the criteria, one of the first things is traffic volume of 6,000 cars or more. Now, why would you have 6,000 cars in a neighborhood? Why would that be the threshold for a stop sign? I just don't think that's probably not the best criteria to look at for placing a stop sign on South Lawn. The best criteria should be, is it dangerous and can we help? So it just looks to me like when I look through the packet, everything that we've asked for is found to be conclusively no by the consultants. And I don't think we're coming from a place of hysteria. I think we're coming from a place of cars are going faster than they should. They're bigger than they used to be. There are more cars than they used to be. Not 6,000, but there are a lot. And I just don't think the criteria that's being applied is the right criteria. So thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Anthony, did you want to speak now, or do you want to wait until we discuss stop signs?
Yeah, we do. We can wait for the stop.
Okay, okay.
I just want
Yep, yep. So is there anyone else that wants to make a comment during communications from the audience?
I just want to thank the commission for a special meeting, also staff to try.
Thank you.
Actually, can I say one thing?
Yeah, come on.
One thing.
Yep, come on.
I just wanted to say, I mean, for living in the neighborhood, like to study, like, cause I looked at it and all this stuff, I mean, it's just, I just don't think a study though is gonna like, cause I live here, I'm out in my driveway all day, I watch it all day. So a little 12-hour window that you guys did the study or whoever did fish, whatever. But, I'm just saying like from that, like from somebody who lives there, I mean, you guys are more than welcome to put chairs out or whoever keeps saying no to the stop signs could just come out, sit on the chair and just watch. Cause I mean, I wanna know if you would let your kids play out there or whatnot and really see it's not safe. So, once we get into this and look and the reasons, just Carissa said, flat out, we're removing screws. I mean, it's like we're spending a lot of money on these studies and we're not asking for much. So, but I just want to get more into it. So I just wanted to say for living in there, I just,
No, thank you. And Anthony, can you say your last name?
Sansica.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming in.
Any other audience members wishing to speak? Okay. To our business agenda 4.1, a discussion on stop signs requested at the intersection of Rosewood Avenue and South Lawn. So this item was briefly discussed at our last meeting, but unfortunately we ran out of time to kind of have a good discussion and make a recommendation of what this commission feels it should make. Just to kind of do a synopsis of the memo, the traffic study did not recommend the addition of stop signs or convert the yield signs to stop signs. It just kind of alluded to maybe a reconfiguration of the intersection for a later date. So is there any members from the audience who would like to speak on this agenda item 4.1 that hasn't already spoken? If they want to speak, now is your time to speak. Okay. I'll open it up for a discussion with commissioners. If anybody has any questions or comments.
Start.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Danny.
Yeah, so, first of all, I do want to acknowledge that our citizens are observing something on our streets that is concerning. And that is certainly something that we want to pay attention to and seek to understand as best as we can. As we know, there are three kind of main E's in road design. If you look at the safe routes, there's 6 E's, but kind of 3 main ones: education, enforcement, and engineering. And so, yeah, when I look at the study that was done by Fishbeck, I believe. Empirically looking at the data, yes, we see volumes are well below the established threshold for a stop sign. This, and also the crash history, there was one type A crash. I did look at that crash report. I also looked back at the last 10 years of data, and it was the only crash noted in that 10-year period. These thresholds are developed through a significant amount of research. Universities do research, primarily the Transportation Research Board kind of holds all of the research that go into these thresholds. From an engineering perspective, that's kind of where we get to this, stop sign versus yield sign from an engineering perspective. One potential concern I could have with changing this from a yield sign to a stop sign would be that when vehicles continuously approach a stop controlled intersection and there is no traffic that they can yield to, they can become complacent and start to treat the stop sign as a yield. This can become dangerous in itself because it subverts the expectations of other road users. So today, when a pedestrian approaches this intersection, they know that it's a yield. They are watching for that car a little bit more closely. If it's a stop, they may cross without paying attention to this car. If this car has gotten complacent, that's where some safety concerns can come up if you go from a yield sign to a stop sign at a location like this. I think the other kind of factor that comes into play here is when we kind of pull on the spaghetti noodles of these roadways, you can start to have some unintended consequences with things like the kind of retaliatory speeding up after you get to the stop sign. People, doing things you don't want them to do. And so for that reason, I do have some concerns with an engineering-based solution to this problem based on kind of the information that's here. This isn't a gray area because they do talk about, when there are other factors at play, that's kind of where our judgment comes in, right? I would be interested in the opportunities that might exist with enforcement and education on this intersection and many other intersections in our city. It seems that we are getting more and more of these. It seems to be a pretty pervasive thing that we're trying to look at. I think we do need to look at those other two pieces as well. For my personal position on this specific location, I do see it being somewhat in a gray area, and I'm interested in what other commissioners have to say.
Juan.
Yeah, so those were some insightful comments. Thanks, Ben. So my own views on this are kind of also in a gray area, my own viewpoint, and it is a gray area. I think what's happening here is I've said in several meetings now, and audience has provided their input, the residents, is that residents are clearly asking for calmer, safer streets, even when the stop signs don't meet formal warrants. So I think one big problem is that, yes, I agree that the warrants, the engineering data, as is written in the handbook or whatever, does not justify a stop sign. And I think I kind of agree with the stop sign not being the most effective solution in this case. However, it's made me realize that the metrics that we're using, and I think education and enforcement are important, so those are the other options. But I think the broadly categorized engineering solutions, I'm just mystified that we're kind of this tiny box where it's stop signs or yield signs. And there's other tools that other cities are using, daylighting, advanced yield lines, high visibility crosswalks, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole panoply that have not been mentioned. It's just stop sign. So I think it's a little, why people are focused on the stop signs is because they're either not aware of the other calming methods, but also because they feel that, yes, as we hear repeatedly, the stop signs, all you have to do is bolt them on. So they felt that maybe if there's anything East Lansing would do is do that simple, bolt it on. And I think maybe they're not confident that the city could even handle slightly more ambitious quick build solutions that I think are also in the engineering box, but are not being considered here. So these other tools, I think one reason is there's no formal mechanism in the city. We have no Vision Zero. We have no menu of options for citizens to look at. So I won't do it at this meeting, but at our November meeting, I think I'm gonna try and start pushing for a quick build safety approach that the city should implement. So I think that's my take on the stop signs is that. So I'm both with the residents in terms of their motivation for wanting a stop sign, but I'm also with the consultants in the sense that I don't think the stop sign is justified, but I think, again, I can't blame the consultants because they were asked to use these very narrow parameters, but I think the consultants and the engineers are trapped in this very narrow worldview, at least as far as I've seen from the data here. And I think I'm gonna start pushing and encouraging people to push for other solutions. But yeah, so that's my take on it.
No, thank you, Quan. And I think, the data we get from consultants and studies, obviously, it's just a snapshot in time. And that it just helps us create an informed decision. So we, as a body, can take the data and analyze it in any way we believe it is natural, in addition to public comment, to make a decision. But yeah, obviously, like, any data that gets to us, there's always going to be, it's only, as clear as it can be. There's always going to be things missing from it.
So the only other thing I forgot to add is also that the other metrics they think have come across from resident comments are not just the engineering metrics, which are very, they're a very valid set of metrics, as Danny said, lots of research supports these metrics within their own narrow scope. But I think also what the consultants totally left out, and again, maybe they weren't charged to, is the residents' perceptions of safety and their quality of life. As somebody commented just now, they said, well, if you sit in a chair near lawn, it's not very pleasant to see, even if there's not a lot of numbers of cars, to see the speeding cars when they do come by, right? So those qualitative forms of data are, those are people's lived experiences, and yet they were totally left out of the reports. So I think, but again, I'm kind of in the gray zone again, because I see why the stop sign won't work, but I'm kind of frustrated that no other solutions are being offered to the residents.
And Danny, I'm gonna ask you a question, Danny, since, this is what you do for a living, is working on traffic engineering. This intersection, the way it is now, the consultant did kind of tell the city you could look at reconfiguring it a little bit to make the crosswalks or make the sidewalks, lesser or closer to mitigate kind of the awkwardness of this intersection. Do you think, there's enough, like, I've seen in other cities where they do like almost like a mini roundabout, or they do other things to like take a weird like intersection and just actually don't have a yield or sign. They actually just do like a little thing to keep traffic moving. Have you anything you can speak to that? Yes, okay.
One of the biggest things for me is I do have to, kind of trust the data and understand what it says, but I also have to put it in the context of the specific location. And it's not just traffic volumes and speed, it is also stakeholder feedback as a major component of, the ultimate design. So to that end, I support what Commissioner Kwan has said about, other tools in the toolbox to achieve the goal in this location, and potentially even from an engineering standpoint. I did have a couple of questions about the safe routes to school study that was completed, and then also there was some talk about geometric updates at this location. Steven, can you give a little bit more insight there?
Yeah. Great discussion, by the way. Thank you. And the Safe Routes to School plan was, a couple of residents have mentioned that that is kind of more of a planning document. It was kind of initial phase of that project. There's a couple at the very end of that, you'll find that there was a next phase of that project, which was to kind of take a lot of these broader suggestions and narrow them down through a selection process. And then the final plan would be kind of this more concrete, just very, so the intent of that document wasn't to implement necessarily all of them, although they could all be taken as recommendations going forward. But for the Safe Routes to School, these were, this was feedback from a very broad sense. And then the intention was to narrow it down to what the Safe Routes to School would ultimately become. So, good document. It's a good recommendation, but it wasn't a final document, nor was it intended to be. I mean, you had a question about the geometrics. It's a good recommendation. There's a lot of, we've discussed kind of with EPW engineering, a lot of these intersections in the Glencairn and Chesterfield neighborhood have odd geometry. It's just the way that they were designed at the time. It creates, maybe historic feel, or there were aesthetics that were considered at the time that they were designed. But obviously now, in hindsight, we can see that this might create some confusion for the motorist. And so it's kind of an ongoing discussion with the city of how can we fund possibly looking at some reconfigurations of these intersections. So no plans yet, but that's on the radar for us.
So there's a financial. Being able to commit funding to a more robust improvement at this location.
Correct. Yeah.
Somewhere down.
Yeah. It's easier when there's, like we have the Crescentwood Kensington intersection that we're looking at right now, that could be in conjunction with the project that the city's looking at that corner, so then it makes it easier to, there's already a project going on there that we can kind of look at that in conjunction with it. Here, it's like the city has to budget for that or take into account, not, so that's the next step for us.
Any other comments from commissioners? Yeah, Nathan.
I'll speak a little bit just as my reading this recommendation and some of the other recommendations, and then my personal thought process on this in the last many weeks. And this goes back longer, just as my tenure on the Transportation Commission. I come with a background in the community of being involved as a pedestrian and a cyclist, and I've lived here for close to 30 years. So I have a pretty deep knowledge of the neighborhoods and having lived in kind of every corner of East Lansing. When I approached working on the Transportation Commission, it came both with that passion for vulnerable road users and, my own personal interest as a cyclist, a pedestrian, a motorist to some degree. But also it came knowing that I had a little bit of education that I needed to do, because while I understood my perspective, I also needed to learn about kind of the industry of traffic and engineering. And so that came with reading. So where I find myself today is quite a bit of the reading that I've done suggests that in instances like this, stop signs aren't necessarily the recommended path, and that they can have those unintended consequences. And some of those unintended consequences can be an increase to the at-risk users. And so for me, it is very difficult in these because I can understand where the concerns come from, and I share that desire. But my own personal residence in East Lansing had a stop sign put in right on the intersection there because quite a few people wanted it. And I would say it's done close to nothing to reduce speeding. I agree, if anything, it's almost worse because now you can be crossing the street and someone will blow through the stop sign and it was the last thing you expected because there's a stop sign there. So I have the lived experience of knowing that the stop signs may not solve the problem and may in fact increase risk. I'm frustrated in the moment as well, that the only thing we're being asked to consider is a stop sign. I feel like if I endorse this stop sign, it lets us off the hook and we don't have to solve the problem. And I don't think it solves the problem. I worry it makes it worse, and then it's too easy for us on the next step to say, well, we did the stop sign thing, why do we want to do something more? So I've been struggling with this one, I've been struggling with the others because I don't know how to enact a better change if all I'm being asked to do is to look at one solution that I think is not necessarily gonna be one that's effective.
No, thank you for your comments. Yeah, Harris.
I broadly echo the prevailing sentiment here that it is a gray area and there is a strong community push to do something. In this case, asking for a stop sign. I think that the relative low cost of putting a stop sign up minimizes the permanent risk to taking that action. That we can put a stop sign up. You know, again, a couple of bolts, swap it out. Well, actually here, it's not, I don't think there's an existing. Putting a pole in isn't that much more effort. And then you can swap that out or take it down if it doesn't work. But there has to be some kind of closed loop to revisit it eventually. I don't know where or how that would get implemented. But just otherwise, then it feels like relative to other solutions, even non-stop sign traffic calming solutions, it's just inexpensive enough to be worth trying.
Thank you. Martin, did you have a comment? Or,
I
yeah,
agree with most of what's being said. I don't think that a stop sign is necessary. I don't think that I will feel like I have done my job if I don't at least recommend some sort of change here. And with this mention from the study and some reference in our traffic calming action plan, I think that this intersection is suitable for some curb bump outs on the north, west, and southeast corners of the intersection. Remove the amount of pavement that the drivers have to use, shrink the walking distance for pedestrians, and lower the sight lines for drivers as well.
Stephen, thank you for your comments. Yeah, Ron, yeah.
Ron Lacoste, Director of Public Works. I did want to point out that we do have the action plan for neighborhood speeding. And we've heard a lot of comments how that plan does not, the residents feel that plan does not work for them. My understanding was that was adopted by the Transportation Commission at one point, but not many of the members here were part of that process. So we are going to accelerate bringing that back to the Transportation Commission so we can revisit that, because that really is the mechanism for some of these other solutions, whether it be speed humps, curb bump outs, increased signage, increased pavement markings, that type of thing. Lots of other communities, most other communities have some version of that. So we're going to bring that back. We're going to bring back some other examples and have a robust discussion on that. So that being, when the stop sign, back in the no, there's another process to go through to calm traffic if that's truly the concern is speed. In addition to that, our ops team is also looking at the purchase of some temporary measures, speed humps, curb bump outs, more like a rubber or temporary installation, so that if we get an action plan that everybody is satisfied with, and we get some roads that meet the different thresholds, we have something we can install on a temporary basis as a trial, because that, I mean, to be frank about it, not everybody loves them. The residents that live in the neighborhood are the ones that drive over these things the most. So it's a good thing for us to put in, it's low cost. Easy for us to take in and out, and we can try them before spending real capital dollars on installing them. So we hope to have those by next summer. We hope to purchase those over the winter. So I did want to bring that up.
And then Ron, can you stay up there? A question for you. So I believe we did this body, I don't think I was a current member and I think Nathan was. I don't know if Danny came on yet, but we did update our neighborhood action plan document, and we did update the thresholds. Are you just assuming we're going to add different options, that if there's thresholds that don't meet, like a stop sign or a yield sign, there's other tools in that action plan?
Stop signs aren't in that action plan, but I mean, the action plan we have is usable right now. I mean, that's the plan we have. It was approved. We just want to bring it back because there seems to be a fair amount of uncertainty that is the right process. We want to bring it back and make sure
Okay.
that we're moving forward. But right now, it is the action plan. We can move forward with that. I think we do have some streets that meet thresholds in that action plan, but we want to bring it back to make sure that public has a chance to give some feedback, and this commission gets a chance to weigh in on the different levels and options.
Yeah, no, I look forward to having it come back to our body. I know the last time it was updated was like in the early 2000s, I want to say, and then we updated it in 2022 or so. So if it needs to be, looked at again, I think it's good. So, well, thank you.
We know when that'll be.
Probably next mission, I would imagine, or the next one after that. Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts there that staff will bring possibly with that as well. But then, of course, leave it up to the commission to decide how you want to move forward on it. I haven't looked at all the full agenda. I was thinking that we probably would, unless we really are too full. We continue to get, we have a couple other requests and things to work through, but that was the plan.
The specific section already gone through that process to get where we are. The neighborhood action plan.
To my knowledge, this has not been part of that neighborhood action plan yet, other than the safe routes to school. And I think there had been possibly a suggestion a couple years ago for some kind of roundabout or something in that intersection as well. But that was the most that I know about it.
Curiosity, that, this is, I like all the discussion. But it will be revisited, and having some, going forward, having some temporary measures that we'll be able to look at. I'm wondering, I know we said if the stop signs get voted down, we will be able to revisit this section about other options. I think that, I'm wondering if the stop signs get approved, it sounds like we're all in agreement that they're not the right solution for this scenario. And I'm wondering, will residents need to go through the process again of gathering petitions in order to get this intersection looked at again? Or is there something, can we just like leave it on our docket to say, okay, whether or not we approve the stop signs, we did or we didn't, this is still an intersection that needs to be looked at in the future. Is that something that can stay on docket for the future? I don't know.
Did you want me to speak to that?
Sure.
It would be a process that would need to be developed by the city. To my knowledge, I have not seen or come across any stop signs that have been removed. But other jurisdictions have done them. You look, unless there's people on this body that have that knowledge, that institutional knowledge of a stop sign that's been removed.
Wasn't mentioning these stop signs.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't mean. Say that, for this intersection, we're talking about, currently there are 2 yield signs. Going east and west.
Yes.
So we just be replacing the yield signs with stop signs. If that doesn't happen, or if it does happen, either way. It sounds like we're in agreement, stop signs are not the best solution for this situation.
I apologize. Yeah.
No, yeah.
We can definitely look at that. We had received a petition for the Glen Cairn neighborhood. I guess I'd have to look through there and see if that meets the requirements. There was some signatures, I believe, as part of that petition. So that might be enough to kick off that, but I don't recall.
Related to that, I'm kind of curious about the process because I know it's easy to get ideas and complex to execute on. Then a city bureaucracy and neighborhood politics and bigger rules that we have to work under, like state rules. But I was just curious, whether we put a stop sign or not, then in terms of what would need to happen for, let's say, a quick trial solution to be implemented. To what degree is this somewhat burdensome neighbor petition process required to have anything happen versus to what degree does the city have freedom to create a traffic control order and let's say if they're very creative, say, oh, we're going to do some paint and post curb extensions, that particular weird, you know, I mean, it's a bad, you know, odd configuration, and see what happens, maybe monitor traffic. So to what degree do you have freedom to do that? And to what degree would you need those petitions? And also there's a politics of it. And one thing that struck me is we were on a bicycle tour there about a week or two ago, and one neighbor said that it would want a solution, but not an ugly solution. So then I was like, oh, well, that kind of limits us too. I mean, like, and if I were the neighbor, maybe, you know, so they're like, they want safety, but they want it to be a certain way, which might actually limit what I see as beneficial quick build solutions where you quickly paint something and put some, let's say, plastic straws in the road to extend the curves. Not physically, but, you know, visibly, because the car could always run over them. But to what degree do we have the freedom in your departments even to do that? Like, or do you still need to have the permission of city council? It's just this whole mix of pieces I don't understand.
It's a little bit of a developing thing, I think. I mean, Noah and I and Evan have talked about that a little bit. I know there's kind of already wheels in motion to look at that. I think it would require some kind of policy, whether that's like something that the commission kind of discusses, but then also, yeah, thank you, Ron.
20%, sorry. To get something started is to make sure there's kind of a broader neighborhood buy-in before the city spends the money on doing the traffic study and all that, because it's obviously not free, spending tax dollars to do these type of studies. And if one person comes up and says there's a speeding problem, you know, I want you to solve my problem, and the city's doing a traffic study, the original one person comes up, there's expense to that. So I think that was the original thought process behind the initial petitions, to make sure that there's broad enough support for the city to spend street dollars, because if we spend on one thing, we can't spend on construction. And then the 50%, I believe, once the city meets the level 3, we're going to put in speed humps or a traffic circle. The 50% again is to get buy-in from the residents that are going to be happy with the solution. Because again, the residents who live on that street and drive in that neighborhood are the ones who have to drive around or over that the most, so it does impact them. I tell my staff this, right, it was 20 years ago and times have changed, but we did all that in K, how we put in traffic circles, temporary traffic circles, bump outs, and the residents universally hated it. We never put it in permanently. I'm not saying that even applicable to today, because that was a long time ago, but it is real once you stick those in, and the residents have to navigate, and that everybody loves it. So I think that 50% threshold, and that first percentage can be whatever they want. But if the city is designing a road, we can't choose to put traffic calming in. We don't necessarily need a petition in order to do that. If we're redoing a street and we just want to do something, it's just there so that we're not reacting to individual residents saying there's a problem, spending all of our time and money on individual residents, make sure there's one. So it doesn't require that for the city to do something on it. So that makes sense.
No, it does to me. Yeah, thank you. Does that answer your question, Fawn?
Yes, I mean, not completely in the sense that there's multiple other factors that we probably, in scenarios that we don't have time to discuss.
Well, I think you can
Clarify.
save those comments in that discussion for when we look at updating our neighborhood action speeding document, because I do think a lot of the concerns commissioners have is making that document more friendlier to residents who have lived experiences of if it's not a stop sign or a curb cut or other tools, whether they're low cost, temporary, permanent solutions that can be administered by this the city to kind of alleviate those concerns. Because I think the one thing that I've served on this body is there's different thresholds for different problems, and problems can change years and decades. So, having a document that's flexible, having, tools that can be changed every couple of years to see how traffic is improving or getting worse, I think will benefit both the employees and the residents trying to collaborate together on finding a solution that works and is flexible. So is there any more discussion on 4 I know I'm kind of in the same boat that Danny and Vice Chair Warner, and even, most people have spoken about the gray area of this, and knowing that whatever decision we make, whether we approve the petition or this as is, and we don't recommend the stop signs, not happen, something should happen. It just find the proper balance of what that thing is. But I am willing to move on. There's a motion or more discussion on what kind of action we need to take. Yes.
I guess I have a discussion question, maybe for all three of these items, but I'll ask it about this and can carry it, which is from the city's perspective, what is the actual ask in front of us today? Is it to review? Is it to endorse or not endorse? And then we will pass that to council.
Yeah, good question. Originally, I think I had mentioned that we were asking for action only if you were going to recommend approval of the TCO and then take no action. I think the city right now, staff is asking the commission to take action either way at this point so that it can go before council, so that council has a action from the commission that they can speak to. So each of these, and Ron's coming up to the podium.
Yeah. We'd like to say the transportation commission is up or down by a vote of X or Y. So that's what's going to be going to council is a TCO to put the stop signs in. That makes sense. We need to give council something to vote on.
So I understand your question, Nathan. So what would happen is, this has happened before, whereas we would make, in theory, someone make a motion to approve the stop signs on the petition, but we would actually vote it down, and that action item would then get sent to council, knowing that we did not approve stop signs on this or on this street, or vice versa from yield signs or whatever. So it's a little bit, it's just making sure we're following the proper procedure of having whatever action we take, regardless if the motion is good or bad, we will vote it down, but that motion will still go to council, that it was a no. So it doesn't mean that we agree with stop signs or not. We made our decision, but the decision honestly lies with city council. if they actually wanted to review it more, if that's kind of what we're, yeah,
Correct.
Yeah.
Council's ultimately gonna decide.
Yeah.
Yes or no, traffic control order. Just like to provide the report and provide transportation or supported the TCO or go to the town. It's just a piece that will go to council for their consideration.
Juan.
I have another question that's broad, but also relates to the immediate matter. And so one thing that Commissioner Harris said that made me think is that, yes, the stop signs, I understand I've been doing quick readings about the engineering and they're not the ideal solution. But in terms of the quick build philosophy, I just realized that maybe, yes, you can put one pretty quickly, I assume, and then monitor it and take it down if it's not working. So that leads to the question of what capacity does the city have to do that kind of iterative, quick process, like quickly put up a stop sign on one of these intersections or all three or whatever? And then is there a built-in recipe or menu or process to kind of monitor the impacts? Like, it did nothing and improved things or made things worse, as we're fearing it might. How burdensome would it be to do that? Let's say I got really excited and go, well, let's try that stop sign because you can take it down after a couple of months if things don't work out. But measuring the workout how is that? Is that a really hard thing to do, or do you have technologies and methods?
Yeah, that's the question I was jumping in. I
Oh.
misunderstood from Commissioner Martin before. Basically, there is not really a mechanism, like an easy mechanism. Once those are in, those are permanent from the TCO.
If somebody said they're which we don't have the capacity to do. And I would be super concerned about driver confusion with putting them in and bringing back out.
Yeah, it'd be the biggest thing. Yeah.
Something I would recommend against.
I know Danny mentioned that about, the traffic, the education piece, the enforcement piece, but then also to, making it consistent with drivers using that street and not changing it every couple of months or years. Oh, it's a stop sign this year, and then it was a yield sign 2 years ago, and then there's no signs, and yeah, so. Nathan.
From a procedural standpoint, if the Transportation Commission wanted to highlight information or add information or make additional requests to go along with the or this proposal being sent to City Council, but to not endorse the stop sign use, how would that work? Say there was a motion.
Yeah, so I think
to
you would,
hypothetical.
you would just say, I think the motion would say, I make a motion to have to your point, what would you do? Because you would shut down the motion down.
I think we can include comments if you wanted comments to go through.
Yeah.
Just tell us and we can include it in the staff report.
Danny, yeah.
I drafted one.
Okay, you wanna discuss it with Nathan, so.
Discuss with the whole group.
I'm moving that.
Oh,
Okay, so it sounds like Danny will help us out with your question, Nathan. Is there any other kind of discussion points before we kind of give the floor to Commissioner Booms to entertain us with a potential motion? Okay, Danny, you have the floor.
Recognizing that traffic behavior at Rosewood and South Lawn. And recognizing the Transportation Commission's concern that a simple stop sign may not address that concerning behavior. I move that we recommend not installing a stop sign at Rosewood and South Lawn. And furthermore, I move that other solutions, including education, enforcement, and other engineering solutions be explored by the city in a timely manner.
I'll just comment, that's exactly what I would have gone for.
Okay.
And does that contradict, Ron, what you're looking for? Because it started with, we do not recommend, but you were looking for a
Cleaner
the
one.
proposal is recommend. And then if we don't want to recommend, we vote it down.
I think either way, I think this works.
Great.
Second, oh,
We just had a discussion point, so it's open for discussion.
Marissa, you can come up quickly.
So I do want to make a couple of comments on the 3 E's. The first one, for education, feels extraordinarily condescending as a resident in the neighborhood. It implies that we're uneducated on how to cross the street. I actually have taught my daughter how to scan the entire neighborhood. It's sad on how much I've had to teach her how to traverse our neighborhood because it is so poorly engineered for children. It is super sad. And you know what she told me on the way coming to here? Oh, Mom, I don't walk across those intersections. I run. That's what we're teaching our children. Also, when we hear education, there isn't any specifics. So you say in education, what does that mean?
Is this the appropriate time for this?
No, I think, no, the 3 E's here. What is the specifics? I'm asking very respectfully, what are the specifics for education? Very broadly. Enforcement is very clear. The city doesn't have the resources for that. It brings us to an engineering solution. If the commission decides against stop sign, and then you're just not going to do anything with the request from the Safe Roads to School, what I'm asking as a resident here is to come up with alternatives. This is what's frustrating as residents, is when we hear no, 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 and there's no alternatives. Consider a roundabout there if this is such a problem. But it's when we hear no, 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 go through this process forever. That's when we come up here and get really frustrated.
Can I respond?
You may.
First of all, I greatly appreciate your feedback. I really do. And when it comes to education, I can understand how that may sound condescending. It's an umbrella term. It's not meant to sound condescending. Regarding the engineering, unfortunately, this body, especially sitting at this table, is not equipped to provide good recommendations on what that would be. Absent any other engineering recommendations right now, the only course of action I can see that makes sense for us to take is to ask people that can make those recommendations to go back and sharpen their pencils and do the work.
They're not.
I don't know what this body should be doing if not to ask the city to look at it again.
Thank you. Go on.
So we're discussing right now the motion, right? If I understand the process.
I think we'll have to make sure we understood the motion again to say, and then I think Warner didn't really second. I think he said he agrees. Oh, he seconded? Okay, yeah, then we're still in discussion.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So with the discussion, I would say that it sounds reasonable. I mean, I understand the concerns about education, but yes, it is a broad term, so hopefully it includes other things, although I don't know how we could ever do the main thing, which is educate drivers. That's something that's beyond their capacity, and that's the main need, but that's a whole other question. But in terms of the engineering solutions, which I think are the core of the problem, because enforcement, again, I don't think we do have the resources, and it's just not practical. I don't think that's a solution. I mean, we need enforcement some, but with engineering, I was listening to your thing and sending it back to the city, but I think we do have, we're not engineers, but I think we do have enough knowledge of other options that have worked in other cities. I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Royal Oak, and that's just within Michigan, Kalamazoo, even, no offense to Kalamazoo, actually, it's a great city. But they've implemented a variety of creative traffic calming solutions that go beyond just stop signs. So I think one thing that I'd like to somehow amend the motion is to make it more precise and ask the city to come back to consider this range of solutions that I would call quick build traffic calming solutions, and perhaps include the specifics of other cities that are good examples. And with timely, I think that's part of the frustration of residents is actually provide a reasonable but quick time box framework. I don't know if that would be 30 days or 60 days, but I think part of the frustration here with residents is things seem to kind of just be put off forever, waiting for another study or something. So I think I would support this motion, but if we added those two details, language, I'm not totally sure, maybe to examine quick build solutions in other peer cities, and come back to us with again, timely report, maybe timely being defined within a reasonable amount of time for the city staff, but also for the residents who are at this point fed up with the whole process, I think. So I would say timely, 30 or 60 days, but that somehow be put into the message, into the motion?
So I understand your comments, Commissioner Kwan, to maybe be more like, obviously, the commission can do what it's want. We can see if there's a support to amend the motion. But I think getting into those details of 30 days or 90 days or whatever action needs to be taken for timely might be better appropriate for updating the neighborhood action, plan, for putting those in kind of that document to kind of say, hey, here's when the city staff needs to do X, Y, Z when this happens, or threshold. And maybe not in our motion per se, but I think something like getting clarity is important to residents. But maybe for our November discussion, we could have a debate on what that flexibility could look like. So residents don't feel like they're continuing having to email, on what the update is, that there should be a give and take of when things are before the city staff and vice versa for this body, and when action has to be taken.
Yeah, I would say definitely create a process that requires timeliness, but is there any harm in also putting in the timely specifics on this particular motion? I mean, it's obviously up for the commission to decide.
It doesn't matter if the city council doesn't care about the timeline.
Well, that's true.
I think this is what, if this motion did pass, do you have an idea in mind of what how timely would be interpreted by your department? Because I think this is saying we're expecting engineering solutions to come back to us in a timely manner. So I think the definition of timely is,
Yeah,
I understand there's like constraints, right?
Hard timely is always not not what people want for timely. But
From what Ron was saying, it sounds like the quick bill solutions
Yeah.
are planned for probably next year.
right.
If I may jump in, again, that circles back to the action plans. What thresholds drive what solutions? That's really the starting point. That's why we're going to accelerate that process. At the end of the day, that's the process that Transportation Commission agreed to direct staff to address these issues. Obviously, it doesn't seem to be very popular right now, but that's the existing process that was given to staff, and we're just following that process. So we want to accelerate getting that process back to the commission so that we can get a process that everybody's happy with, so we can move forward with solutions. Right now, you gotta have the thresholds. You can't react to every intersection and put a traffic circle on their speed hump or whatever. There's got to be certain criteria met. So that's kind of why we decided to accelerate bringing that plan back to make sure it's something that everybody is satisfied with moving forward, so that we have thresholds. We can say, yep, this one means it. Let's move it forward. That's why we're trying to get those temporary traffic calming measures so that we can do some trial versions before spending real dollars on it, something we can put in more quickly than a capital project. So that's kind of what our process is. We're gonna, anything we do at the end of the day, we're 3 engineers. Our whole engineering department is 3 engineers. We have 4 or 5 construction projects going on. We have permits coming in, site plans to review. Anything that we have to do quickly has to be consulted out. We just don't have to handle it in-house. I appreciate that we're in Lansing, and there's way more robust engineering departments than East Lansing has. So we would have to consult that work out to turn that around.
No, thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Following up with that, from what I'm understanding, it sounds like even if this motion hadn't been made, or if it doesn't pass, the work that we want to see done in a timely manner is already in motion. We're expecting to see that come before us. maybe not specifically for this intersection, but in general.
Yep, you're right. So I'll go back, like, I'm not in favor of amending the motion, just because I think a lot of those questions that Commissioner Kwan brings up, we can have that debate and discussion in our November meeting to make the process better for residents, for this body, and for city staff to have a clear indication of how to actually make things move faster for little things. So we're not wasting, residents' time and staff time on back and forth, because it is frustrating. And we all should be frustrated that we can't take, quicker action. So making a better process is better. So the motion still stands as is. So it was made by Danny, seconded by Vander Gallion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those against?
Against.
Huh.
Nay.
Nay. Nay. Okay, the motion passes. Okay, we're gonna go to 4.2. So, discussion on stop sign requested at the intersection of Snyder Road and John R. Street. Very similar to the one we just took action on. This one does not recommend the yield signs being changed to stop signs at this intersection. So I leave it up to commissioners, if there's any comments from the audience that would like to speak at this time. Now is your time to come up. Yes, Molly.
Thank you. I do appreciate all the time. Just really quickly, I do want to point out that the neighborhood speeding plan actually says the commission encourages residents to use the procedures. Encourages means you can, you don't have to. So I don't think we need to feel like this is an absolute requirement and it's not working. I'd like an example of where this plan has worked. Thank you.
No, thank you, Molly. Thank you, Molly. Any other comments from the audience? Yeah, Anthony, welcome back.
Yeah, how we doing?
Just state your name for the record and then
Anthony.
I'll give you 5 minutes. Yep.
I guess my concern on the John R. thing is that's like the main street that kids get to school. And I mean, I don't know, I'm just kind of weird talking about stop signs that just keep getting denied, so I don't even want to say stop sign, but, I mean, at least could we chat about alternatives or something? Because I mean, that's weird. Anyways, so we chatted last time, I mean, the stop signs, most of them, you can't even see because of vegetation and stuff like that, which was said that was gonna get taken care of months ago, but still hasn't. But, there's like stuff like that. I mean, there's very simple solutions, especially in vegetation. I mean, being able to see the yield signs that people blow through all the time. If you can see them, maybe they want it, but that's another chat. But I guess the main concern is definitely because John R. is the school street. Like, I mean, as kids walk on there, that's how they get to school, all that, and it has all the traffic. So like, it's weird because I saw this number of something. What was this? Give me 2 seconds. Cause I kind of want to know these numbers were like fluffed or something, because there's no way. What was it, like the traffic count in May? But there's like, guys, I just want to stay. So 2022, there's 104, and then 2008, and then what was that, northbound on John R? And then southbound, 218 northbound. So 322 cars whenever you guys did it in May. And then that was before the road died, right? All right, so now, for the people that live there, we see it. But then 2024, year of the road diet, 136 northbound, 215 southbound, so a total of 351. Road diet now. So you're telling me 64 cars northbound, 115, so less people are cutting through the neighborhood like that. I mean, God, where'd you get those numbers at, man? That's wild. I just want to call that out, because this is crazy. Those numbers are nuts. And like, it went down, like the traffic went down since the road died. Like they found an alternative, there's no way. The alternative to cut on Hagedorn to Grand River is our neighborhood. So it's John R. I mean, if they're not doing, John R., then they're going on Wayland. So I just wanted those numbers there. Like, I would love to see that report. And then like also somebody said that it's not cut through traffic. They're going to their friends' houses and what was the other one? Or it's like something like that. People that I mean, how did you not get that? They're going to friends' houses. This is weird. I mean, how did they go down that much with this road diet? If any of you guys want to take it, when I'm trying to go to the gym, I'm not trying to take a left. Like, we can sit there and time it. I mean, sometimes I'm sitting there for 2-3 minutes before I can get out of there. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm cutting through because I mean, it's what you guys do there. You're ruining the city with all these road diets. But that's another thing. But I'm just gonna ramble on. But I'm just saying, John R. is where the kids go. So please do something. Have an alternative or something. Because what were we talking about? Putting flower pots in one to like redirect the traffic. That was cool. Just something other than like putting colorful tape on a yield sign and just give us something, so thank you. Again, I'll talk on that.
Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, I'll give you 5 minutes, sir, and just state your name for the record.
Sure. This will take about 90 seconds. I'm Gary Mesher. I live at 508 Wayland, the corner of Wayland and Melrose. 90 seconds. Long ago, but not very far away, I used to be a safety crossing guard back in the 60s when there wasn't very much traffic. We have a lot of traffic now. I'm not very good at numbers. What remaining brain cells I have are not well spent looking at data. I just look at traffic and I look at kids in our neighborhood, and something has to be done. And that's why I'll be at City Council tomorrow night. And I think a lot of other people will be at City Council tomorrow night to continue this conversation. So it's about safety. I would also suggest, as I have to 1 or 2 people here already, in previous weeks, that forget about stop signs and 4-way stops or controlling traffic. I would suggest tonight, as I will tomorrow night at City Council, that Southeast Marble deserves the same type of ambiance as the Bailey neighborhood. When I say ambiance, I'm referring to stop signs, 4-way stops, and other stuff. So I hope I'm right about 90 seconds. Again, we have to do something. Forget data. Data's not going to help us if something really bad happens. And I've seen too many close calls. Anthony and I were in the front yard of my house a week ago. Never mind, that was just an example that happens all the time. So again, forget using data to justify or not justify speed limits. Let's take it another direction. I'll just end again by saying ambiance. We'd like the same ambiance as the Bailey neighborhood. And that means 4-way stops and stop signs. Thank you.
Any other members wishing to speak?
Yeah, I also want to echo what Gary had just mentioned.
Can you just state your name again,
Chris?
Chris? Yeah, thank you.
Which really is becoming a fairness issue. Drive through Bailey, drive through White Hills, are really nice neighborhoods. And they've got a lot of stop signs. They've got a lot of roundabouts. They have sidewalks. They have curb cuts. I mean, so the amount of scrutiny that has gone on with these stop sign requests, which as we've gone over, are probably one of the cheapest things that you could do. The other signs in our neighborhoods would never have gotten put into place if you all had put this much scrutiny on them. They wouldn't have ever been there. I just jokingly was in a parking lot yesterday and installed a stop sign on the way out, and my husband and I joked, oh, well, probably should go because there's probably not 6,000 cars that come through here in a day. look, I am an environmental scientist. I have a background in data. I've analyzed huge data sets for my PhD. I understand why the importance of it. And I think it's fantastic if it's utilized as a tool without being blinded by the lived experiences of the people who live in these neighborhoods. And I think what's really upsetting to me most is that there's just such a dismissive attitude towards the residents' concerns. And it's been echoed over and over again. And so it really, like I said, and first time I came up here tonight was, if you vote down stop signs, it's not enough to just say, we did our job, oh well. You must come up with alternatives. That's called just listening and being of service to the community here, as it's what my impression was what this commission was supposed to be doing. So we need to be coming up with other solutions. If it's not stop signs and it's just not the flavor of the day, or right now it's not the thing to do. Clearly it was in the past, or Bailey wouldn't have all of these. Then other alternatives must be given. It's not enough to just say, I guess it's not a problem. And also I'd like to mention, I mean, like as I came up here in May and told the really unfortunate story, and apparently it was just a really short memory, that 1 block from here, there was a child that was killed in an accident report that I had read. And that when I talked to residents about it, they said, oh, if there had just been stop signs on the other end of this street, that would have saved his life. So I guess memories are short. I mean, there's just other alternatives if you're not going to say yes to the stop signs. They're just cheap and inexpensive, and the residents thought seemed like pretty reasonable. And also, we just have seen them in a lot of other spots that, like I said, if they had this level of scrutiny, wouldn't have been there at all. So my suggestion is just take out all of them, because this is becoming an issue of fairness to all of us. Take out the stoplights in the city and just see how it goes, because this is not fair to the neighborhoods that are asking for these to have to go through this much scrutiny. It's simply an issue of fairness.
One more thing, just one like little tiny thing.
You already gave your comments, or under public comment. I'm sorry. Any other individuals that want to give comment? 4.2, we're going back to our current discussion on stop sign requested at the intersection of Snyder Road and John R. Street. So just like last time, this, the consultant did not recommend due to the thresholds that they did not meet for the changing of yield signs to stop signs. So I open up to council or commissioners' discussion on this point. Nathan.
Question for Stephen. I know in this one, it mentioned that there was concern about vegetation blocking the sign. Is that something the city has maintenance jurisdiction over? Is that residents? How does that work get done?
Yes, we do. That's something that we have gone out there. I think we had that concern earlier, and so we did send out crews. There was one yield sign in particular that was really overgrown, so we had that cut down. We do encourage, if anybody knows of anybody other signs that need to be cut down, we can send crews out for that as well. So just encourage that to send that to us.
We
And
can't hear a thing you're saying. We have microphones.
yeah, sorry. So if you guys,
I think that would be very helpful. Thank you so much.
thank you. Yes, I was just saying that we did send out crews couple months ago when we had that first round of concerns, and there was at least one sign that was overgrown. And I believe we've addressed that. And if there's any more, then we are interested in you sending that to us, to our department, either myself or Ron, and we'll get that taken care of for over the vegetation. Yep. Could have had something else.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I did want to jump in for this one. This is another example of just to kind of frame the memo. And I appreciate the comments about taking, the neighborhood comments and incorporating that into our analysis. I think that's good feedback for us as engineers. We often work within a box. So we're given like a task and we work within that task to determine, and in this case, we were asked to look at changing the yield signs to stop signs based on the petition. The reason I bring this up is because we did have an email that will be in the meeting minutes, and I wanted to address it. As talking about the timing of it in July, and also looking at school drop off, pick up and drop off. And we didn't want to expedite. We don't wanted to look at this intersection. We didn't want to wait because of we just wanted to be timely with it. We had other traffic counts that we could sanity check some of that, the data. And we do appreciate that concern about the school crossings. We think that that's an ongoing discussion. We are meeting with the school district regarding the bus routes and some of the school crossings. That's kind of a result of some of the Kensington discussions. And so but it's also broader school, citywide. So I think that could be an ongoing concern here as well. I just wanted to mention that again, because you'll see that in the meeting minutes, that was one of the emails that came through, so. Yes.
Okay. So, at this location, again, read the report, you know, I saw over 20 years, no crashes at this location. That's, you know, definitely a good thing to hear, although I understand, again, as in with the last location, that there is a concern that residents are seeing. What was the reason for this specific intersection and not others along John R. or Snyder? Do we know?
I actually live at Snyder and John R., just about 3 houses west of that. If you look at the map, John R. is the main exit onto Bircham. There are two other streets, Moreland and what is it, Jaywood? Both of those are only about a block and a half long, whereas John R. goes all the way from Bircham down to Cahill. There are no speed limit signs. There are no stop signs. There's no traffic calming of any kind, and it is the major thoroughfare. And this is why I brought up my concern with the data that they gathered regarding the cut-through traffic, is because the only major exit onto Bircham is 1 block away from Hagedorn. So the idea that people would be cutting through from Hagedorn Grand River to Park Lake and Bircham didn't make any sense, given the way that you can't actually cut in that direction through the neighborhood. And so while the total number of vehicles in that count that we saw may be accurate, I don't believe the cut-through data for that data was accurate. But that makes John R. the only way to get to Bircham from the neighborhood. You have the high school, or not the high school, the middle school, right across there, which turns into a basically pick-up, drop-off nightmare every day of the week. You have the elementary school, Marble Elementary School, catty corner across from the neighborhood. People don't like to walk on Hagedorn because you are right next to the traffic. And air quality aside, you know, it's just very uncomfortable. So most of the students walk straight up John R. Most of the cross streets don't actually have sidewalks. And they have on-street parking. And so you have the situation where people are walking in the street, approaching this from all directions, with nowhere to go, basically. And that's why John R. has become this kind of hotspot of concern, is because it's this main artery through this neighborhood. And there's all this other, you know, lack of infrastructure, really, leading into it. Yeah, so that's kind of why this place.
Why, oh, sorry.
Wyatt Snyder.
Yeah, what's
I don't know why Snyder specific. Oh yeah, the recent accident. Uh,
4 months ago.
yeah. Nighttime, one person was just going through the yield signs. And another person was turning from John R. onto Snyder. And the person blowing through the yield signs just cut into the side of the other vehicle. So it was very much a right of way issue.
No, thank you for your comments, Harris. That actually helps me a lot since I don't live in that part of East Lansing. So thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Let's make a motion.
Okay.
I move to recommend replacing the yield signs with stop signs.
Is there a second?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
You may.
Both directions or just one direction?
That we're only talking about 2 signs.
Cannot hear. Can you please speak into a microphone? Thank you.
I was asking whether we were talking about just replacing the yield signs or also adding stop signs on the north-south. There's currently only yield signs on the east-west.
The motion is only to replace the yield signs with stop signs east and west.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Vander Gallion, seconded by Martin. Discussion on the motion.
I have a question, which I guess is a discussion
Yep.
for Stephen to discuss. So the yield signs are there. Now, is that a different criteria as to why the yield signs can be put up versus the stop signs?
Yes, it's different.
Oh, okay, so there are different criteria, all right.
Yes.
That was a very simple question, all right, thanks.
What's your reasoning for supporting stop signs at this location?
I don't find it a whole lot different than the intersections that we talked about 2 weeks ago, and it being 90 degrees, I think makes it pretty clean, cleaner than the South Lawn Rosewood intersection that we talked about.
To me, this one was a lot more murky than the last one, actually. The last one, to me, was a lot more closer to the gray area of wanting to put stop signs in due to intersection geometry, things like that. In this location in specific, especially with the grid nature of this location, I do have more significant concerns about if a stop sign goes in at Snyder, that users will take one of the roads north or south of it to avoid the stop sign and use the yield signs, and then the problem will be pushed to other locations.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Warner.
I also share concerns on this. What I'm hearing is that the sidewalk infrastructure is causing people to be in the roads. And John R doesn't have any restriction, and so people are traveling too fast along John R. Approving this would not address either of those issues.
Any other discussion points?
Yeah.
Yes, Harris.
Yeah, I agree. I would prefer that the stop signs be on the north-south sides of the intersection to address the speeding along John R. And to clarify right of way. That's where most of the speed gets built up. Those are the longest stretches.
And then Harris, just so I understand your concerns, and this is something that I've had to grapple with. Yield signs and stop signs are not methods to, reduce speeding. They're simply to help with traffic control, but not necessarily to reduce neighborhood speeding, you're saying. Go ahead, go on.
Comment. So again, it's the same, I'll keep repeating the comment, and I think part of it may be unnecessary, so I'll make it short, because I think a lot of this may hopefully be dealt with in the November meeting, or December, when we get to see any updated action plans, and hopefully it's not an action plan where we have to do major surgery on to make it pedestrian, cyclist friendly. And so it's not, again, purely car driven, but it's driven by other metrics that matter to people. That's another point. But for here, I would say again, John R. is a street that I bike on a lot, and it is concerning because yes, it's a straight shot. So it's like a big rifle barrel that's precisely made for, if you analogize cars to bullets, it's made for cars to shoot down it. And then you have further the problem that it's not yield signs, it's stop signs. So you never know. I guess if you're in a car, you're going to feel safe because protected. But when I'm biking, I could technically shoot down the whole road merrily, especially when I'm going downhill. But the yield signs are suggestions, they're not stop signs. So that's another concern I think that I have with John R. And then I would echo the concern that it's also a major school route. So I've been unfortunate enough to bike during school let out time, and there's this massive traffic, lots of kids walking around, so it is an incredible safety concern. And again, with this process that we have here, it's not really doing anything to enhance the safety of school children who are walking up and down that street. So I guess I'm making both a short-term and a long-term comment that I'm hoping that we can create a process that will avoid these kind of long discussions about little details like a stop sign, which I understand might be helpful. So that's my comment again that I'll repeat, that I'm hoping we can create a long-term solution for all of this.
I'm hearing all of the comments here, and I think that stopping traffic on Snyder is not the right way to go. And I'm looking, and if we stop them on John R., what's keeping them from going to Wayland and using that as their thoroughfare through the neighborhood?
They would have to make two turns to make that practical. Wayland doesn't attach to Berkshire. So.
Oh, it does.
There's actually a grassy area separating them.
And a staircase.
Interesting, okay.
I don't feel like stop sign is the answer in isolation. I feel like we don't have the tools in front of us to address this, but I'd like to see something a bit more comprehensive that addresses the community. Because it is a grid, it is easier to subvert any individual traffic measure. That if we want to redirect people, that putting in one set of stop signs isn't going to do it.
Is John R. part of the Safe Routes for School process?
It's not on that, the current one that's going through.
Yeah, my impression of the discussion is that it seems like this particular intersection was highlighted because of the accident that happened, the collision that happened. But it sounds like that sort of collision isn't common. Sounds like this is the only time it's happened at that intersection. And it seems like with the setup, it could be just as likely at any of the intersections on John R. So it seems like a unfortunate one-off incident that maybe is, not reason to change that intersection, because if that's the only time it's happened, it seems like the yield signs are doing their job to, you know, indicate right away.
No, thank you, Martin. And Harris, I did, take your comments, and I think, we should include what you're saying, because I do believe what you're saying, that it is a grid system, and that the solution before us, even if approved or not, will not, solve the whole problem, that it needs to be a more, looking at the whole John R., street in particular. So I look forward to working with you in November to see how we can address the John R. issue, with the cut through and whatnot. So I just wanted to say that to you.
This segment of road is included in our non-motorized transportation plan as a traffic calming level 1. Is there any reason that we can't just recommend the mitigation efforts that are included in this non-motorized transportation plan, which include review the existing signage within the neighborhood in order to determine if they are located appropriately? Driver speed feedback trailer signs are recommended to be rotated throughout the neighborhood, both low cost category, both short-term scheduling categories.
Yep, what we'd probably do with that recommendation as staff would be to send out a survey. And then assuming that would be passed, then we would implement it. Well, sorry.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, we have already started those discussions with the neighborhood president, both with Greg Cahill and John, correct, Stephen?
Correct, yes.
We had the initial conversation, we sent him some data. Follow that up at the neighborhood meeting to talk about which measures to move forward with, because it is level 1. I think Cahill is a level 3. Has
yes.
been my whole career.
Yeah.
So it's not unusual. It's always been coming up with that solution. So
yeah, and they were very receptive to that too. They were looking forward to that as well. It sounded like.
So we've set him some data. So we are moving forward down.
Thank you.
Nathan.
I think this neighborhood in particular, because of its grid nature and because of the unique patterns of stop signs and yield signs and connectedness to certain main thoroughfares, and also there's certain pressures on that. You have both the schools in the surrounding area, and then we've also identified the challenge with the Grand River and Hagedorn intersection, as well as kind of the Whole Foods complex. I think what we've seen in the last year or two are individual proposals coming to the Transportation Commission for opinions. But I'm concerned because we're looking at an individual intersection or an individual speed limit or a particular stop sign. And each time we look at this, the solution to adding that one stop sign is just going to push into a different part of the grid. And I've kind of heard maybe what Ron just said is that this is a more holistic look at the grid, but I'm wondering, how do we trigger the whole neighborhood? Like, why is it set up the way it is? We clearly have a thoroughfare running north-south through it. We have pressure coming in from the sides from different things, and those have changed over time. Is there an opportunity for us to go back through and be strategic about the entire neighborhood instead of just saying solving one intersection doesn't solve the problem, so we can't do anything?
Oh, is that?
So how do we trigger an evaluation of the neighborhood?
We have a local street project that's coming up resurfacing, so that could be an opportunity, I guess, to look at that as a holistic neighborhood that's on the in the design for this fiscal year, and then to be constructed next year. That'll be phased most likely, so we have to figure that out. It would be half of the neighborhood, but we could look at it as part of the design. And either in-house or with a consultant.
Yeah, I mean, I know as commissioner, I would love to see that. I think as was identified already, the cut-through study identified one potential path of cut-through, but it really wasn't the one that almost anybody else had identified. And it, to all of our sort of anecdotal data, suggests the wrong direction to be looking. And And if we are to understand the cut through traffic, the John R. and the Cahill would both be directly affected by that. That would be the cut through direction that a lot of people are taking. So I do think this is more than just an ineffective yield sign. This is a neighborhood that's just potentially signed incorrectly. And I'd love to see us look at that. So if there's a way to kind of put that in the queue officially, I'd like to do that.
Any other questions on the motion or discussion on the motion?
Steven, what was the project you were talking about?
It's a local street resurfacing, so it's just a mill and fill project. It's milling down a couple inches and paving a couple inches. Oh, sorry, it's a mill and fill, so it's milling down a couple inches and then paving.
Warner.
So I have a sort of a procedural question, and this may be a little bit for you, and this might be Noah question as well. If the commission is faced in this moment with, do we want to approve the conversion to stop signs? If we did not want to do that, we would vote no. Do we have an opportunity to provide the same guidance that we did on the previous item in terms of, is there anything additional we want to suggest, or are we in a position right now where we just are going to say, this isn't one that we would endorse?
I think the motion is, if you feel that way, we would vote no. And then if there's an opportunity to do another motion to explain that further, I think that's the opportunity you would give it, because we would give it both to council, that the motion that is originally before us, if it does indeed fail, you would, whoever the commissioner would be, make another motion and direct that to go to council. So they understood what our rationale was for 4.2 on our agenda item. Is there any further discussion before we vote on the motion? Stephen, can you do a yeas and nays record roll call vote on this motion?
Commissioner Booms.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Hey, yeah.
Commissioner Kwan.
I'm sorry, I guess maybe I'm getting low on sugar. Could somebody repeat the motion?
So the motion that Commissioner Vander Gallion proposed was just a motion to switch out the yield signs on Snyder Road, which are east and west, to stop signs. That's the motion.
I would say aye, yes.
Commissioner Vander Gallion.
Nay.
Commissioner Harris.
Okay.
Vice Chair Warner.
Nay.
And Chair Moore.
No. So the motion does not pass. So is there another motion that a commissioner would like to make at this time?
The Transportation Commission acknowledges the observed concerning driving behavior that residents have seen on John R. Since the John R. corridor is identified in the neighborhood traffic calming plan and due to the grid nature of the neighborhood, I move to not recommend stop signs at Snyder and John R. Instead, I recommend a more holistic traffic calming approach to the neighborhood to be studied during the planned local street resurfacing project.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Boom, seconded by Vander Gallion. Discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Okay, motion passes. So 4.3, discussion of stop signs requested at the intersection of Linden Street and Wayland Avenue. Is there any members from the audience wishing to speak on this agenda item? Just state your name again, Anthony. I'll give you 5 minutes.
I just learned a lot sitting there for 2.4 seconds. Oh, what was your name again?
Corwin.
Corwin,
Yeah.
and then Mitch. All right, so you guys proved a lot. So Corwin, you were talking about John R., right? And then you were mentioning it and all this stuff, and Mitch goes, oh, I didn't know that either. Well, it's good enough. You guys research what you guys are voting on?
Yeah.
So you didn't know anything about John R. until Corwin started talking about it, though. You were like, oh, thank you for, I didn't know that. So when you're making your educated vote, you have no idea what you're voting on, right? Because I mean, he just schooled you on it, and you didn't know, so I just want to make sure. Because it's weird, I saw passion when it came to, he lives on this road, so that's what I'm saying. He lives on this street, so there was passion, but then it's like, it's weird, it's weird. We were talking about his neighborhood, hers. There's gonna be passion, but when you're talking on stuff you don't care about, you know what I mean? I live on Linden, so I can talk for days about it. And then like when I'm heard, John R. Cuthbert, yeah, of course. Wayland is too. Moreland is too. Jaywood, I think that's not a street, I've never heard. But yeah, anyways. But I'm just saying, I mean, it's just weird. Like we got 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys voting on us. Like what should I do? Move? Because you guys aren't gonna, and then I also don't know why are we just talking about 2 streets? I don't know who, unless it was you, because no one else in the room lives on Snyder and John R. So I don't even know how that got thrown in. Steve, when we're talking, it's Linden and Wayland. So, but I'm talking about the whole neighborhood. Like, why are we looking at the whole, not just my street? I don't know. So it was never just 2 streets in the neighborhood. Never. So, yeah, you know, that was, we were talking about the neighborhood. For some reason, Stephen got that messed up when we started talking about 2 streets. It's not 2 streets, it's a whole neighborhood. I've never seen a neighborhood set up like ours, where it's just yields and, like I said, spend a day out in my yard and watch. I mean, it's insane. Like, it's nuts. Carissa brought up like equality. So White Hills, Bailey neighborhood. Is it because like we're like a middle class neighborhood? The house is kind of ran down. We don't get what the other neighborhood, like White Hills, $500,000 house, they get stop signs. We don't. I mean, our kids don't matter type of thing. I mean, really, I don't know. It's nuts. It's watching everyone, like people who don't care about my street vote on it. I mean, that sucks. It really does. Like watching people who don't even care. Mitch, you didn't even do your homework. So, I mean, it's Corwin told, just nuts, man. So I guess it's just weird watching people vote on like my daughter's, you know, being able to play in the yard. Are you going to pay for the fence? Because instead of doing all these studies, why don't you pay for a fence? My daughter doesn't get hit by a car. You know, it's just, this is just, I mean, it's really hard to watch, and you're smart, man. It's just, it's not cool either, because this is my life, not yours. When you talk about your street, you probably have something to say. But I know you guys don't care. It's my street. It's not your street. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment.
I'm Gary Masher, Wayland. More studies. Okay. More studies. I think what I'll suggest to council tomorrow night is that we remove stop signs and 4-way stops from Bailey. That seems fair. You don't have to respond, but that seems fair. Remove stop signs and 4-way stops from the Bailey neighborhood. Why not? My daughter and son-in-law live in the Bailey neighborhood. They seem to like them. So that will come up tomorrow night. I don't know that it'll go anywhere. Council doesn't owe me an explanation tomorrow night, but I'll bring that up. I think I think we're wasting time. And I've appeared before, attended more than a few transportation commission meetings. I think it's a waste of time. And I think now it's incumbent on our neighborhood just to go to city council. I'll just go back to what Carissa said. I think it's a matter of fairness. I'll look forward to removing stop signs, Eric, in the Bailey neighborhood. I don't think that'll affect you. Everything will be fine. So that's my suggestion. If it sounds a little goofy, so be it. That's where we're at. More studies.
Any other residents wishing to speak? Okay. So agenda item 4.3, discussion on stop signs requested at the intersection of Linden Street and Wayland Avenue. Like the other, two other agenda items, this, consultant did not recommend, it didn't meet the threshold for stop sign conversion.
Do we know why this intersection is highlighted for us?
This, so the original request petition that we got had, didn't really specify the intersections. It was just, in the neighborhood. It was to change all the yield signs. So we selected this one. It was kind of, location geographically with, Snyder and John R made sense because of the recent crash. And then this one was kind of selected because it was in a different location. Just looking at the grid, it made sense from an engineering standpoint. With the understanding that, there could be additional studies for the other intersections if that's the way that we wanted to move forward.
Okay, so this intersection in particular is that, doesn't stand out, but it is a good example of, most of the intersections in this neighborhood.
Correct.
I move that we do not recommend stop signs at this intersection.
Second.
So motion made by Vander Gallion, seconded by Booms. The motion is do not recommend the stop signs be replaced, correct? Is there discussion? Yes.
I'd love to add the additional commentary that we added to the last motion, if people were interested in that. I don't want council to. I would hope that council gets a consistent message from us, and might feel weird to me if I were to see two where we recommended some additional things and then this one we didn't. So, I guess, can I proposal to amend, or do we have to do something different?
I would just shoot the motion down and just redo the motion.
Okay.
So let's vote it down and then we'll redo the motion. So all those in favor say aye. All those against? Say
Nay.
Okay, motion passes and then we'll redo the motion.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
For the same reasons as cited for Snyder and John R, I move to not recommend stop signs at Linden.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Boom, seconded by Vander Gallion. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I guess, yes. So you preface that with, for the same reasons.
So in the previous motion, I said that the council acknowledges the observed concerning driving behavior since it's in the traffic calming plan and it's due to the grid nature of the neighborhood. We move not to do those things, instead recommend a more holistic traffic calming approach to the whole neighborhood, which includes this intersection.
Would that be for the same reasons and with the same recommendations?
Yeah. Any other discussion points?
Just to reiterate, I don't feel that these two stop signs in particular, and just replacing those yield signs, just to be clear, would address anything on John R in particular, because those are both east-west yield signs. And so even if we were to approve the measure, it wouldn't address John R. And that addressing the east-west traffic through the neighborhood also would require a more holistic approach to make sure that we're not just redirecting it down one or the other street unnecessarily.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Okay, the motion passes. So on our unfinished business agenda, we have item 5.1 and 5.2. We're not going to be taking any action on 5.2, but I know 5.1 has an update from city staff. So Stephen, can you give us an update on the Harrison Road truck traffic discussion?
I know that we're out of time. I just wanted to mention, there was a scheduling, that I wanted to throw before the commission to see how to best move forward, I guess, on that, item. There's the Harrison Road truck traffic will be discussed tomorrow at the council. But the Harrison Phase 2, will be brought before the council on November 18th. November 10th is going to be the neighborhood meeting, for the Phase 2 recommendations from the, consultant. So the consultant is going to meet and present those, whatever recommendation study from Phase 2 and have that discussion presentation, and then follow up with the council on the 18th. So that leaves basically no window for the commission to comment on that Phase 2, which would be very helpful. So there could be a couple options with this. We could, really try to get our consultant to expedite by the 3rd, to have it on the commission for the 3rd. That would be difficult, possibly. The other option is to move the November 3rd meeting to November 13th. That'd be the only date that would work to get it in between after the neighborhood meeting and before the 18th. Because we have to have everything finished by the agenda on Thursday before council. So it gives us a very tight window to make sure that whatever recommendations are from the commission are part of that agenda that goes before council.
No, thank you, Stephen. So seeing those two kind of options, I think it's important for this body to be included in it, because this has been on our agenda item for quite some time. And I don't want to pressure the consultant to expedite imperfect product. So my solution would be just to move our November meeting to the 13th, or that second Monday, and do that instead. So
Thursday.
or not the 13th, the 10th.
The 10th is when the neighborhood meeting is, right?
Correct. Yeah. So,
To be on the 12th. in order to-
Or what would we mean?
Thursday?
so the meeting would be odd in the sense that it would be in the middle of the month and it would be on a Wednesday.
Okay. So the 12th is a Wednesday. Okay.
I apologize. Yeah. Not a whole lot of
Yeah.
great options there.
And the 12th was fine for my schedule.
Still, works for me.
Yeah. So I'm fine with Wednesday. So my bad. I thought Wednesday was a Monday, but no, it's a Wednesday. So the 12th is a Wednesday. So just so we're in the clear, if we're in agreement, can someone make a motion that we just move our regular scheduled first Monday to Wednesday, the 12th of November.
I'd like to we move our normally scheduled November meeting from the 3rd to the 12th of November.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Harris. All those in favor, or discussion? Any other discussion? Okay. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? The motion passes. So we'll have our meeting on the Wednesday, the 12th, Stephen. And then we're not going to talk on 4.2 today. There are no committee reports, we're going to go on to Danny first to do any announcements and board member comments.
We greatly appreciate the opportunity to work with you all, and especially as we approach certain topics that require a lot of thought and discussion. I really genuinely have learned a lot from all the insight that each of you have provided over the years. So thank you so much. Thank you for your passion and for taking the time that it takes to do the work of this body.
Thank you, Danny.
Tomorrow's city council, there will be discussion, this could be just something outside of meeting if need be. There will be, discussion. Roxburgh. I was wondering if there's, maybe it's, maybe I'm forgetting, I know I brought this up last time, but if there's, specifics of where this stop sign is going to be, that has been clarified at all.
Yes, I can pull up a graphic if that's helpful, because that did come up.
Spencer Lawn and Roxburgh.
Right.
Question.
So this was in discussion with Fishbeck. That was their intention, is to put the stop signs kind of where they're shown here. Sorry, that's really small.
Yeah. Is there one on the bottom left corner of the left triangle? Yeah.
Right there. Yes.
Okay, so that would apply to traffic going west and then south onto Roxburgh?
Correct.
Cool, thanks.
Yes.
As long as that's there, then good with that. Not that that's up for discussion anyway, but just wanted to make sure that's where the, accidents are happening. That's where the car tree is. I'm very pleased to see also at tomorrow's city council meeting item for no through traffic signs on Kensington, Cowley, and Highland, and the signs are already there, the temporary signs. Just happy to see that, and to see that there's an item to discuss the no trucks on Harrison. I want to echo the concerns of the residents. Southeast Marble has been asking for stop signs for a long time. They've been very patient, and it seems like I don't know, we got a couple items before us to look at stop signs in Southeast Marble. They're not, I don't think that they would really do much, those particular changes, but it seems frustrating that they keep on asking for stop signs. We haven't really been given many options to help them. I think that having the holistic approach and looking at broader improvements during the resurfacing work can go a long way. But it would be nice if we could do something for them in the shorter term. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Quan. Did it die?
It's
Okay.
came back a little. Okay. Yeah, so to me, this was a very interesting and yet frustrating meeting in terms of my own thought process and votes, because I hated voting against the stop signs, because I'll do anything to calm traffic, and it was very clear that the residents of Southeast Marble were frustrated, as were the other ones in Glencairn. But to me, this is kind of motivating in the sense that it, at least on my part, will push me to advocate in this commission and maybe more publicly the need for a more comprehensive Vision Zero type framework, if not a Vision Zero framework itself for the city, so that, again, these discussions here don't keep coming up, because they will keep coming up, these traffic safety concerns. So I think that's going to be on my agenda, to be advocating for that with council, and that'll start next November with perhaps requests for recent crash data in East Lansing for pedestrians and cyclists, which I know is just one measure, but I think this commission might benefit from having more sources of data as it makes decisions and recommendations. So that'll be one thing I'm going to be aiming for. And the other is something that I'm trying to craft for discussion maybe or consideration is a pilot build project or a request that we initiate a very quick one for one or both of those neighborhoods, either Southeast Marble and or Glencairn, so that we can actually, without any study, let's call it a level 0, where no petitions are required, the city can act on its own, use proven quick build solutions that again, other cities have implemented without the need for massive studies to kind of start trying to calm traffic. And this would both perhaps calm traffic and also signal to the frustrated residents that something is being done parallel to these longer term studies, like what to do with the grid in Southeast Marble, which that's a really wicked question for the engineers, I assume. I mean, you have your methods, your software and all of that. But I think in the meantime, I think it's really important to do some pilots and quick build solutions so that, again, they do work. Other cities have tried them, and it's also going to be politically useful, I think. And I can only see the pressure building, as you heard the residents say that they're going to bypass us and go to city council because they're so frustrated with us. So I think I'm going to be trying to advocate for that. So again, it's kind of frustrating, but also exciting that I'm going to be, I kind of feel like I have a mission, at least to bring this forward to the commission.
Thank you. Vander Gannon.
Age-friendly communities committee is making really good progress on finalizing our action report, and we're kind of turning it into the action plan. So that's good. Not much update on the transportation stuff that we haven't already talked about. I don't have any other comments other than that.
Oh, thank you. Harris, any comments?
Yeah, I wanted to share actually an anecdote of experience my son and wife had coming home from school a couple of days ago. My youngest son is 8. He is autistic. He bikes to and from school when weather is permitting and time is permitting. A couple of days ago, my wife was bringing him home from school and they were about to cross Bertram east-west on the north side. Sorry, Hagedorn on the north side. And Bertram had the right of way. And somebody came flying through, big black SUV, came flying down Hagedorn, came within a foot of his front wheel and just blew through the red light. And this kind of goes to we can't engineer around that. There's no solution to that. And the management is budget constrained and effort constrained currently. And I'm not sure what kind of education can address that particular kind of need. It's frustrating to not have any tools for that kind of thing. I just wanted to share that because that goes to the safe routes to school and the broader pedestrian and bicyclist safety push that everyone is concerned. It's just difficult sometimes. Just wanted to share that.
No, thank you. Vice Chair Warner.
I want to thank everybody for your engagement in the conversation today. I think this was one of the more thoughtful and measured and kind of deliberative sessions I've seen us have in my time on the commission. I think there were a lot of really challenging situations to be in for exactly many of the reasons that people talked about, which is in some ways it feels like you're voting against the things that are your kind of core principles. But when you know that it's not going to get you what you want, or it has an effect that is unintended, or for whatever reason, there are reasons why we sometimes have to do that. And I know that the process is very challenging, but I really want to commend everybody for having a really good conversation. My stance is it is not as up to us as commissioners to propose the solutions. It's not up to us to do the engineering. It's not up to us to find the solution. We are here as an advisory council of citizens to give our feedback to city council. And there is an element of critique that happens there where we can say the city is not getting the solutions that it needs. And it is up to us to be that voice to say, we just do not approve of the solutions that are being offered. Something better must be given to us. And so I really want to thank you because I know that it's such a hard conversation, and to know what is the burden that is on our shoulders and what burden isn't on our shoulders. Ultimately, a lot of this, whether something happens or doesn't happen, is up to city council. We are here to provide that advice. And so I just really want to thank everybody for being thoughtful about it. I just know it's a challenging conversation. So thanks.
No, thank you. Only comment I have is I want to thank every commissioner on this body for being civil and for not having a back and forth with audience members who were at some points very rude. So our job is to listen and to have discussion amongst ourselves, and I appreciate of just the civility we all shown to the body and ourselves, and to work through difficult things, knowing the solutions that the audience wanted us to do weren't the ones they wanted. And that is the job of this body, is to take, consulting, our memos, written statements, audience member feedback, that whatever decision we make it as a group. It's majority rule, but we do it in a thoughtful discussion. And I think we've always done that. And as your chair, I've always tried to give every commissioner an opportunity to voice his or her concerns, speak, and whatnot. So I just commend commissioners for just being respectful, being civil, and not having a back and forth that could have, taken a wrong turn with certain speakers. So I just appreciate the civility we presented today and hope we continue doing it for other tough meetings that we may have in the future. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Vander Gallion. Seconded by Quan. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay, we are adjourned. And just make sure you guys turn off your speakers at the end. And then will you just let Willem and Kita know that we removed it